Hello and welcome. I start them all that way. I say the same thing. I was like listening to them. I start them all with hello and welcome.
You're like a 70s rock jock.
I know. I got to do better. Welcome to another episode, Square Up with GraySquare. This week we got Steve Bussa on. You might have seen Steve from one of our Grab a Beer with GraySquare videos that we did. By far one of my favorites that we shot.
Obviously,
Steve's here. You know it's a good time. I got a handful of topics that I want to go through with Steve. But just if you didn't see the video we did, I definitely recommend you go back and watch it. If not, give us like a 5-second who you are, what you do here at the company, cool. And we'll jump into it.
Steve Bussa, number 4 on your phone, number 1 on your heart, Michael Street. You know what it is. I'm a campaign manager here at GraySquare. I currently handle primarily the Verizon retail sector in Philadelphia. Also run a lot of the road trips up to Boston, Massachusetts, and have handled a little bit of the business development and energy sectors for them. Right now, primary focus is on expansions into retail. Client specific isn't really necessary. We're just looking to put out more offices, handle the teaching, training, developing of the new reps, and handle the hiring processes.
Nice. So as you can tell, the man does a little bit of everything.
That resume is wild.
My man's resume is out of control. Just like his rebranding initiative, like I focused on the other day, or like I mentioned the other day. Steve's been going through a process that we all have. We're trying to, make ourselves look cooler on the internet as executives, we'll say, and personalities to kind of catch up with the times with social media. Steve's been hitting a home run there, which that kind of leads into like our first topic. So those of you guys that don't know Steve.
So this is called Square Up, right? So are we supposed to be taking like alternate sides of each of these arguments?
We don't know.
Still figuring it out.
We're still finding our.
I play devil's advocate really well. So
me too. One of my favorite things to do is argue with people and just switch sides, because I feel like as a salesman I can argue whatever point I want. Like I can just jump.
Absolutely.
All right, you just pick a side and then flip the script. No, we don't necessarily have to. We'll get the Square Up thing makes for cool graphics, like the one with Jay and I. My favorite thing about that is if you'll look at the graphic for the last podcast, Square Up with me and Jay Scott.
You're not going to promote your previous podcast.
No, I'm gonna promote you because you make fun of it so well. Jay, obviously 6'4", me not that tall. Less tall, and so like from a fake boxing picture, it doesn't look like it's a fair fight. And Steve made the comment of, it's such an unfair fight, Jay didn't even bother to take off his sweater.
Jay looks so unamused by that matchup.
I know.
I had anything better to do for the 3 minutes this is going to last.
And I'm like breaking my neck to look up at him like I can fight him. But anyways, the first topic here, I thought this was a good one. We kind of labeled it as employee appearances.
Can't imagine why you picked me for that topic.
You helped make it up. No, so like I mean, Steve, why don't you lead into this? I mean, the gist of it is, what's different about your appearance in the workplace compared to like 10 years ago, and what's the value add? What are the dangers? Like, give us like a little overview of what you were thinking here.
So this is a lot less metaphorical and a lot more literal of a topic.
Sure.
Like literally the way that people look in a sales capacity now, from the door-to-door salesman with the shirt and tie and top hat. You know what I mean? It's definitely changed. When I first got into sales, they told me there's only 2 things that you can't have in order to be successful in sales, and it's tattoos and a beard.
Really?
That was my introduction. Like, we came up from other companies that were very cookie cutter. Like, everybody wore the shirt, tie, blazer every single day. You know what I mean? Like, you just like reproducing them out like in a factory. So like individuality, of people and like having your own identity was looked down upon.
Right.
So like I was always told, like, if you have tattoos and you were doing door-to-door sales, for instance, the product doesn't matter. People are gonna think you're trying to rob them. Like you can't.
In any real corporate setting, that was. Kind of the perception.
Yeah, it really was. And as for me, for those of you can't see me right now, but I'm covered in tattoos from one side of my body to the other.
Sure.
And I've got like a nice little Dan Bilzerian thick full beard going on right now.
You trimmed it back. Like how much did you cut off recently?
I went from Gandalf to Dan Bilzerian. That's literally the goal right there. It's
like a few inches, though, right?
It was like, wasn't it? It was like 6 inches. I was like ZZ topped out.
That's so wild.
I was just trying it. I never had a beard before, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to do it. You can't stop me.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're right.
So no, that was the thing. And I just think that, but it's possible now. And the level of success that we see alone is awesome. And it's always inspiring. Like, thank God that I got to the position that I'm at.
Sure.
Because I now get to use those same practices and kind of change the status quo for the people coming in. You know what I mean? Like, people come in and they have, long sleeve shirts on and it's 90 degrees outside. Chances are it's because they're trying to cover up a tattoo.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Their defense goes way down, and you get to actually get to know your employees or people that, are in business industry when they see somebody that's successful that looks like them.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like, the diversity in the workplace has just gotten so much better in the last 10 to 15 years alone.
Even less than that, man.
Like,
even the last 5 years.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that.
I
But
mean, I think I remember too. It was like it was. So I got out of college in 2007, and I remember I think my brother got a tattoo, and I was like, I want to get a tattoo. And I remember in the back of my mind, I was like, if I get a tattoo, now I can't be successful in business.
Do you have any tattoos right now?
No, I don't. But that was...
Spoiler alert, he punked out.
I did. I absolutely did. Because even in 2007, which, only 10 years ago, the perception was, I didn't just come up with this out of nowhere. I didn't read it in a book. It was just kind of a thing that I thought. I was like, if you get a tattoo, you can't... Now business is out the window for you. As a lot, you can't become successful because there weren't those people, at least that I saw.
Have your views changed?
No, you're going to fail. No, no, absolutely. I mean, just as the times go, and I think what's kind of changed in the last 10 years is I think as more of the we'll call it the millennial generation, we're sort of part of, becomes the older end of that generation, as they become more relevant in business and they become more prominent, they start to implement their views into business.
The old people are dying.
Well, yeah, but you said that way, yeah.
That thought, the old school way of thinking is dying off.
And I think a lot of
the progressive thinking is there.
Yeah, a lot of our views are, it doesn't matter what you look like or what your outside image is. If you have good ideas, then blah, 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 right? So on and so forth.
I want to test your theory, though.
Sure.
Because even me, myself, I have my arms done and a little bit of my chest, a little bit of my back. Mm-hmm. I still don't have hand tattoos. I still don't have neck tattoos. I still don't have face tattoos.
You can cover them all up.
I can still...
You can put a long sleeve shirt and now you don't have tattoos.
Corporate, you would never know.
Right.
You know what I mean? So... in my mind, I still think the way that you used to think, that if I were to get love and hate on my knuckles, you know what I mean?
That's so corny.
There's a door closing somewhere.
There is.
Just because of that. And I don't think that that's gone away.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I got lucky in that I found a progressive industry that allowed me to have arm tattoos and stuff like that. And as a public speaker, as someone that goes in front of people and motivates people, I definitely grab attention with that. But I'm still not signing up to get a Mike Tyson tattoo on my face tomorrow.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So
I think it depends on who you're engaging with. For example, I think it's all about the crowd. When I think through this, if you were giving a speech at Goldman Sachs to the board of directors, the executives there, I think you got to cover them up. I think that crowd, they're not there yet. They're not ready yet. I think in the marketing world, right, in the startup community,
right,
is where it's most open. But yeah, I think still I think that view is still there for.
So how long until we're the board of directors at Goldman Sachs and you know what I mean?
The entire image has changed across all of business.
Because it's going to happen. Relevant. I mean, if you look at music, oldies now, you hear 2002 Eminem on oldies now. the
oldie back in the day.
Yeah, that's already started to make that change. How long until business is the I don't know how to word it, but
I know what you mean.
The overall image is just accepted that it's different.
Because I think it's certainly an age and timing thing. I think people that are, for the most part, that are, in their 30s, the places that they have power are typically smaller businesses, startup businesses, tech companies.
Right.
Because they're able to build those things and get ahead faster. I think the people that have those beliefs that someone with a tattoo is not a professional are mostly in the baby boomer generation and running larger businesses. So I think it looks like probably, I don't know, 10 years.
That's not long at all.
15 years?
That's not long at all.
It's really not.
Is there any place for now reverse discrimination once we get in power that if someone doesn't have tattoos, they're out?
Yeah, right. That's so like, yeah, in our meetings in 15 years, we're like, what a square. Get rid of some client or, not hire someone because they don't look cool enough. Especially in Philly.
Yeah.
Dude, Philly is such a tattooed city. At least in my opinion. Or maybe that's just the time that I moved up here.
I mean, I agree with that.
You've been to a lot of places outside of Philly. Do you agree, disagree?
I think any major city. Like anytime you go into the major inner cities, like you're covered, like tattoos are everywhere. It's just cultural. I think there's in every place that you go, the urban city is going to have tattoos everywhere, and the more rural you get, the less likely it is you run into it. And I don't think it's a Philadelphia exclusive thing. I think it's going to be everywhere. Maybe
that's my own bias because I moved up here from like the country.
Yeah. Tattoos were $6,000 and no one had any.
Yeah, maybe. Oh man. No, that's a good one. So for you and what you do, are there ever like you're in our company and to our clients, you're a person of authority, a person that is relevant in the company and somebody to be respected. When you meet with like our bigger clients, for example, do you worry about like, oh, maybe I got to put long sleeves on for this?
I worry.
I don't want to name any names of like clients or whatever.
Right. Like, without naming them, I worry about what my KPIs look like going into the meeting. Right. So like, I figure you have to have leverage. Right. So like, if I'm the head guy on a campaign and my team is bringing in millions of dollars worth of revenue,
sure,
I could show up in a leotard if I want to. You know what I mean? Like
right.
The forwarding message is going to be talks. Everybody else should be showing up in leotards. Like that's clearly what's working for this guy.
If I'm such a big,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
I'm probably a lot less likely to stir the pot, so to speak.
Yeah.
If we're not in that position. You know what I mean? And that's just good business. Like you don't want to show as much bravado if you don't have the stats to back it up. And the more you do back it up, the more you're in control. Like I use Gary Vee for an example, right?
Sure.
No one used to curse.
Right.
Like if you cursed as a ground level employee, you'd probably just be fired.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like you had to wait until you had that platform, until you had the money, until you had the power, until you had the position. And then if you decide that cursing's a thing now, who's going to tell you no? You know what I mean? Like,
right.
Now he's dropping F-bombs every 3 minutes and it's just looked at as normal. Like that's his brand almost. You know what I mean? To just talk street and cut it the way that it is.
Sure.
That same thing doesn't apply if he doesn't have the stats to back it up. If he doesn't have the stats to back it up, then he's looked at from other corporations as unprofessional. He's looked at as somebody who's not meeting the status quo. That's never going to go anywhere. That's never going to do anything. And I think the question that you're asking is the same exact way. Like when dealing with clients, how do we measure up to them?
You play their game until you're relevant enough.
If you're irrelevant, then everything that you do is being scrutinized and you need to fit into their mold. The second you rise above that and you then become in a position...
Fine.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. We got the president of the company must disagree with me. He's calling in right now.
He can chill. He'll be all right.
So, I think the second that you put yourself into a position has the leverage, so to speak, you know what I mean? Like, it's whatever goes at that point. You make your own rules. And I think that's the goal for most of us. Most entrepreneurs want to get to that position where my vision of how a company should be ran is the right way. Does that make sense?
It does, yeah. So I think it comes down to the thing you mentioned about Gary Vee, he got pressed on that, I guess a few weeks ago. That's when he posted the video of somebody who's like, you don't have to swear all the time. More people would think you're cool if you don't swear so much. And his pitch was,
probably F him.
Well, as a woman, F her. No, the basis of his pitch was authenticity. Like, this is who I am, kind of take it or leave it. Which again, you can't do at ground level employee. That re-solidifies what I'm saying. And my only challenge with it is, for you, it's kind of like with our whole, rebranding and kind of getting ourselves out there a little bit more. And like my fear with it was if if I want to be authentic and not everybody likes it, that's fine when you have $1 billion. Right. Before you have $1 billion, somebody that doesn't like it, they say, hey, I don't like what you said, and they crumble your whole empire.
There's a big difference
without getting into too much of that, because I know where that conversation leads, and I don't really want to have it. But
there's a big difference between Landon Atkinson's Instagram and 50 Cent's Instagram.
You're right. Yeah.
Like, I think the most recent post right now on my feed from 50 was, why do I care? I have money.
Sure. I mean, you're probably right. And there's a few less guns in mine, unless I'm in the South.
Unless you're in the South. But yeah, I mean, I think that overall, like, that's my opinion on all that. Just the leverage and stature that you have usually matches the level of authenticity, as he would say, that you're inclined to put out. Unless you're trying to stay small. You know what I mean? Like, I think that's like the really like downside to it is like the wrong person might see a Gary Vee authenticity speech and then try to walk into a larger client without naming any clients, start dropping F-bombs left and right.
Right.
And get like swept out the door because of it.
Yeah,
like,
right.
It's good if you're selling T-shirts out of the trunk of your car in your neighborhood. Like, you'll probably be the coolest guy with the T-shirts in your neighborhood.
Sure.
But you're not walking up to Nike, you know what I mean, who's taking political stances in their commercials and trying to push off your swag and your bravado in those situations and expect them to land a deal. Yeah. It's not realistic.
No, that makes sense. It's all about your position, I think, of how much you can show the world. I don't think that's a popular opinion, but I think it's accurate. You know what I mean?
Yeah, at least for the next 10, 15 years when all the old people die and we can remake the rules.
We can rewrite the rules. They're not listening to podcasts anyways. Who cares what they think about our opinions?
If you can't figure out how to find this, then you can't be offended by it.
Maybe that's the path. We can be more authentic on different platforms. Like, we can't do this stuff on Facebook. And it's not really like, you can't really get hit with discrimination on something like that. That's wild. All right. I have so many more questions that we'll save for another podcast. Let's jump into the next one here. So you've taken the path of entrepreneurship, of, I want to be in a position where I control my own stuff because that's where all the money is, blah, blah, blah. You obviously didn't start that way. You don't start out as someone who's going to run their business. You just get a job and then you go from there. There's an interesting point in everyone's path where they decide, this isn't cool enough. I want to do my own thing. Was there a defining moment for you where you decided, I want more, and I'm willing to take the risk to get more?
Like that,
does that make sense?
That mentality switch?
Yeah, when is the mentality switch of like, I want to be an entrepreneur now?
I know the moment that it happened, actually.
Do you really?
Yeah. It's funny that you say that. It was during a critical conversation with my manager when I was doing door-to-door sales for unnamed client.
Sure.
And we were talking about Sundays off, right? Because just everyone was at church or whatever excuse we were coming up to for that purpose, right?
Yeah.
And I'll never feel like, so he sits me down and we're talking about taking off an additional day. So working 5 days a week instead of 6 days a week. So we were working Monday through Saturday.
Right.
And he sat me down and he goes, if you were making $2,000 a day, would you want to take that day off?
Not even close.
I was like, no, what are you talking about? He's like, if you're making $2,000 a day, which at the time I was probably making $1,000 a week, maybe, you know what I mean? Like as like a top sales rep.
Sure.
He's like, you would want to work 8 out of 7 days. You would be angry that there's not more days in the week to work.
That you could work because it's so profitable for you.
Right. And he's like, you're thinking like an employee. You're not thinking like a business owner.
Right.
You're going to be in my position. He said this to me. Look me right in my face. Like, you're going to be in my position.
Yeah.
Like, there's no doubt. Like, the trajectory that I was on, the pacing and everything like that. He's like, you're going to be in my position. So you need to learn how to get people that work for you to think like that in order for you to continue to make that money. And for some reason, like I hear motivational speeches, I'm sure you do, every single day.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of them just get brushed off. A lot of them is the same message repackaged in a more creative way. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
I probably heard Eric Thomas's speeches from 45 different people with little tweaks here and there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
For some reason, this one sat with me. And I was just like, yeah, I want all of my guys working every single day. You know what I mean? And I worked 7 days that week. And
right.
You know what I mean? Like, that was from that time forward, like I'm not saying everything happened instantaneously and like
Yeah.
the next day I was Mr. Entrepreneur, but that was the first step. That was like step one to realizing the mentality I had
Right.
wasn't going to get me where I wanted to be,
Yeah.
and that it had to change if I wanted to get that quote unquote, $2,000 a day, which
Sure.
that number is really low when looking at it from a larger corporation, and
Yeah,
super high
right.
looking at it from a Taco Bell. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
situation. So it's like that's my moment.
That was your point. How old were you when that happened?
I was probably already 27 years old.
Really?
Yeah.
That's wild.
I was probably 26, 27, something like that. Like,
Yeah.
I had been a really rock star employee mindset person for a really long time in
Right.
different industries.
Right.
Before I can admit that shift changed. Like, before it was always about how do I get comfortable so that I don't have to work.
Right.
Instead of like, how do I work my butt off right now so that I can, when I retire, I'm not sitting at my house playing PS4.
Sure.
I'm on an island somewhere. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like,
and
doing
that only
whatever
works
I
from
want.
doing your own thing.
Exactly.
Yeah. I remember when it was for me too. It was a little earlier for me. I don't know if I ever told you this story. So I was 16, and I got my first. By the way, I was the opposite. I was a horrible employee. any company that I worked for, I was just. I questioned authority. I got lazy if I thought something wasn't worth my time. I was such a bad employee. Now I work, a million hours a week. I think I'd be a great employee in theory for somebody else. But anyway, so I was 16. I got my first job that I got a paycheck for. Was at Chuck E. Cheese.
So you had many jobs that you didn't get a paycheck.
Well, that I just
for?
like little cash stuff and whatever, like under the table type stuff. But I got my first job that I got a paycheck for. I was working at Chuck E. Cheese. Did I ever tell you I worked there?
No, but this is so great right now.
I know, right? So I had, I was the guy in the referee shirt that when the quarter gets stuck, I can open the thing and get the quarter out or whatever, put more tickets in the game, just little stuff like that.
Right.
Cleaning tables, delivering pizzas.
It's like what you do now.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, I know. Just like everything to everybody. But anyway, so I'm doing that, and I got at the same time, and I was making $6 an hour doing that. And I was in high school. I was working probably close to 40 hours a week. I was working 4 or 5 hours a day, and then 10, 12-hour days on the weekend. So I was putting in a lot of work. And I was making, I think after taxes, my check for a 40-hour week was $180, $200, something like that.
Balling.
Right? I was balling out of control. I was 16. Anybody that was 16,
$200, yeah.
Anybody that was 16 in 2002, it would have been, that had $200 of spending money in high school, that was pretty decent money. So I was fine with it. Then I started doing my own thing on the side, where I was selling speakers and car audio, subs and amplifiers, and
I got by one of those guys before.
well, I wasn't one of them. I sold quality equipment, right? So I had I had a buddy of mine got me a wholesale.
I just got so mad again.
Yeah, right.
$180 in a KFC parking lot out of the back of this guy's van.
Really?
I bought this whole surround sound system. I was young and naive.
So I was doing that. I was selling stuff out of the back of my car. And anyways, I was buying the products at wholesale from this distributor that I got in with, and then I could sell them for whatever I wanted.
So you were an entrepreneur before you knew you were an entrepreneur.
Yeah, but I remember because I closed this sale or whatever we'll call it. I made this deal. I sold this buddy of mine a couple 12s, an amp, and a head unit, a CD player, and I think I sold it all to him for $500, and I was only in $200 on it. So I made $300 on the deal. And that was the same day.
You quit Chuck E. Cheese?
No. I kept both jobs, but I got my paycheck from Chuck E. Cheese, right? And I got $180 from Chuck E. Cheese, and I got $300 from this little side deal that I did. And I'm sitting here comparing the two.
Oh, that's
right?
amazing.
And I'm so I wheeled and dealed a little bit. I did a sale. I networked. I got my own customer. I bought a product. I sold it. I made my own prices. I made my own money, and I made $300. On the other thing, I spent all my afternoons after school cleaning tables, sweeping the floor, picking up pizza off the ground, just dealing with nonsense for 40 hours a week. And what most people my age thought was you got a job, you got a couple $100, this is awesome. In my head, I'm like, something is up here, man. This is some bullshit, right? Like I'm killing myself for somebody else doing this. But when I do my own thing, I make my own hours, I make better money because I'm in control of everything. I'm like, I don't know exactly what's happening here, but I have to go on a different path. I got to sell stuff. I got to come up with something. I got to do my own thing because this is nonsense. And like right then it hit me.
That path goes one of two ways really quick.
I know, right? I was like, yeah, right. Get in, start selling alternative products. No, it wasn't like that. But like I knew right then. I was like, this life of going for some company, working 1 million hours, getting whatever they decide you're worth, and doing that for 50 years is just not for me. And I was 16, and I was like, I don't know what to do about this, but I know either life sucks or I figure this out.
I can see like you have to be a rare situation where someone comes up with that on their own.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like,
yeah.
And I don't know that it's better either because it's got to be a scary realization when you don't have a mentor that's like pointing you in a certain direction.
Right.
Like I was lucky enough that when it clicked for me, when I was older, you know what I mean? So I was like, I'm already kind of have like an understanding of how the world works, so to speak.
Right.
But I was also in an industry where every person that I was surrounded with was like the entrepreneurial mindset.
Yeah,
I can't imagine that things go as smoothly at 16 years old, staring down at two different piles of money.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like just doing quick maths.
Yeah, quick maths. I know. I got super lucky though. I mean, my dad still is my mentor, and he was sharp enough to where when I was able to like have this like realization and talk about it, of at least like pushing me towards that's a real problem that you can solve, not sorry, suck it up and deal with working for the man. My mentor, my dad, was like, you can go down a different path.
That has to be the opposite of the advice that 90% of people get.
Oh, I know. I'm so thankful that when I brought that up, I was met with like, lucky enough to have parents that saw like a brighter future for me, as opposed to just, well, you need to go work for the man. It was like, nah, you could do better. You just got to keep after it, and work through it and figure it out. So I got lucky there. I feel like every entrepreneur has that type of story. Like every business owner has some point of realization. You brought this question up as like a topic we should talk about, and I think we should do it more often with people.
I mean,
figure out what their point of realization was.
There's a ton of these.
It's a big moment in people's lives.
Just management, like stories that made you who you are as management.
Oh yeah.
Like I probably tell a rep that 3 times a day. When it's like whatever you're going through, like this is going to be a story that you tell when you make it to management.
Sure.
Like it sucks now, but 3 years from now, you're gonna look back at some other little sweetheart that's going through the same thing, and you're gonna be like, "Man, when I was your age,
right,
we walked 10 miles in the snow,
uphill both ways."
Yeah. Like we do it right now when we talk about the difference between like door to door and retail. We're like,
sure,
you know what I mean? Like, oh, you couldn't get to the store where it's 75 degrees and sunny.
Right.
We had to walk out in the snow and knock on doors.
I was pitching people, man. Oh, that's too much.
No permits.
You're right. What a mess. What an absolute mess. Why don't you pick the next one here? So here's what we got left. So we start these things with just a handful of topics and then just kind of work through them as we feel like. What do you want to talk about?
Let's take a look here. Working for high-profile clients versus non-high-profile clients.
Yeah,
next.
what did you mean by that?
So, when we talked about this before, when we were like suggesting the topics, this goes really well. This would have been a smooth transition when I was talking about leverage.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like the things that you can do and the things that you can get away with based on the clientele that you have. Like if you look at our team right now, most people in the country would want the sales team that I have underneath me right now. Everybody is top notch. Everybody is
Sure.
super sharp. But we're also working with a Fortune 50 company.
Right.
You know what I mean? Not the same case when I'm working for mom and pop shop energy company X, Y, and Z.
Sure.
Or like I like to reference like the T-shirt CDs out the trunk of my car. You know what I mean? Like different quality, like different ways that your business interacts based on the clientele that you have.
Right.
So like the questions that come up is when do you make the shift? Like it's very difficult to get a high profile client if you don't have a team that already looks like it.
Right.
But it's hard to get a high-profile team if you're not pushing a high-profile client. There's a lot of gray area into how to make those different transitions. And like one of the things about these podcasts is it's supposed to appeal to as many people as possible.
Sure.
So this is like kind of a conversation to have both with people who have businesses that are already established versus the person who's just you and the trunk of your car, you know what I mean, looking at these subwoofers that you're selling people, you know what I mean? Like
Right,
how do
right.
I, like what is the difference approaches between high profile and non-profile clients in terms of recruiting, in terms of training, in terms of standards that you have, you know what I mean? Like I feel like there's a lot of ways to attack the topic. So like just to give a little directions for us, for yourself, right? Mm-hmm. Think about the biggest team that you had with a client that wasn't a tier 1 client.
Right.
And the biggest team that you've had with a tier 1 client. 'Cause I know you have history with both.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
right.
Like what are your thoughts on the differences in the just in the reps, right? The people under you, the direction with that.
I think when in this industry when you're representing a very well-known client, it's easy to get caught up in making that your whole pitch of like, look how cool this client is that I'm representing, mm-hmm. right? But in this industry, outsourcing, whatever you want to call it, clients come and go, right? They're a dime a dozen. That's the easy part of what we do is getting clients. So like I think that the challenge is if you get addicted to how cool your current project is and you allow your people to get addicted to how cool the project is and the client that they're representing, you create an environment where people become trapped into this is the only thing that they can do, right? And I think where, you know, if you're listening to this from like an industry person or a competitor or whatever the case may be.
If you're listening to this as a competitor, turn it off.
Listen, that's fine. You're eventually going to not work for whoever you're working for and you're going to come to our side anyway. So feel free to listen to the tips. But no, I'm like, if your people get addicted to the client, I think they get trapped. If your people get addicted to the vision of the company and the direction that it's going in, the client becomes relevant. It doesn't really matter. And I think when you're not representing,
all right, this might be our first square up opportunity.
Yeah. Well, let me finish the point here real quick.
Right.
So like when you're not representing when you're not working on something for the biggest and the best client in whatever industry that it is, it forces you to say, all right, listen, you know, the project they're working on might not be that cool, right? But here's where we're going and here's why, which gives you a lot more value to like the culture that you're building as opposed to just selling the client that may or may not be there in 6 months. You know what I mean?
No,
it forces you to sell the
that.
vision and get people on your side and working with you because of where you're going and the business is going, not because of how some short-term project is.
So I wasn't rocking, and now I'm kind of rocking.
Yeah.
So like, here's
my last bit.
Yeah, the last bit won me over. So my initial thought is, are you trying to tell me that there aren't people that you will lose just because of the client? Because there absolutely is. There are people that you will only get if you're working with tier 1 clients, and you have to.
I don't want them.
You have to acknowledge that.
Yeah.
I mean,
I should. Maybe I should.
You probably do.
I probably do because I want the money.
Right.
But I think what I always give somebody is if you're getting into this industry where you know there's a million different clients that will represent over time and whatever the case may be, if you think any of them are cool and that's a better thing to do than another, then you have limited career opportunities, right? Like for example, if you know we have our hands in a couple different industries right now. We have our hands in the telecommunications industry and the energy industry. If you think that one of them is amazing and fun and awesome to work with and another one is not, right? Doesn't matter which one. You limit yourself to however big that particular industry gets or however big that client gets. Because if you're turned off by one thing, you're stuck and you can't work on anything else. Like you're kind of limited at that point. You know what I mean?
No, I'm riding 100% with that. I think the terminology that I use when training guys is product dependency. Like we are not product dependent. It doesn't matter if I'm selling rubber duckies or I'm selling the greatest telecom service in the world. I'm going out there with the same enthusiasm because if they're my client, it's probably because they're paying the most money. At the end of the day, that needs to be what you preach is the opportunity to vision. You talked about it in the thing before this.
Yeah.
Pitching the vision, selling the vision. Like that needs to be the focal point of why someone works, at least in our industry. You know what I mean?
Right.
I'm sure if you work directly for that client, they think otherwise. That's more of a targeted, statement. You know what I mean?
Your
as far as like
your
marketing
concerns
goes.
are more to like the shareholders.
Yeah, I don't think like the insert big name company here
Right.
is too big on just the vision of other products.
No, I think that's. Let me go back to what I said about the shareholders, because as the entrepreneur, you are the shareholder, you and your people, and to drive their value, it's about the money, not the image. Not the coolness of a certain project over another one. So
Fair enough.
Yeah, man. Well, cool. That's our list of topics here. Anything else you want to run through or anything?
We can go over the importance of punch-ins.
What?
For a little podcast humor there.
Of punch-ins? What are you talking about?
Punch-in is like when somebody messes up, so they cut out and then they come back in.
Oh. Yeah, so you guys may or may not catch this. I had a little... No, it was my computer. My computer died. So I had to go back and say half a word at some point during the point of this 30-minute deal.
So drop a comment in the comment section below. See if you can figure out where the punch-in was during this 45-minute podcast.
And yeah, I'll give you a hint. It was me. I messed up. That's usually how it goes, right?
Clearly.
Clearly. It's not Steve the one, Bussa.
All right, cool.
Anyways, well, yeah, man. Cool. Well, Steve, thanks for doing this. I definitely appreciate you jumping on Square Up with GraySquare. We got to do it again sometime, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Get some controversial topics going.
Yeah.
I'm better at this.
Yeah, so doing these things with Steve, I have to really narrow down the list of because Steve and I are good friends, and usually the conversations are just wildly all over the place. So we have to really trim down the topic list of 15 pretty good but controversial, hilarious topics to 5 business-related topics, so we can slap GraySquare's name on this.
We got to do an after-hours version. This is the stuff that got cut.
Behind the scenes,
the conversations you didn't hear.
We have those. I don't know. We have to get censors in to edit that stuff, or not.
No, we need to get those kidnapping voice changers.
Well, now we already said that it's us.
Yeah, plausible deniability. That could be anybody.
Yeah, you're right. That's fair. All right. Well, cool. Well, if you want to find, if people want to find you, Steve, how do they find you online?
Cool.
Give a plug for your own promo here.
Damn right. So we just did the whole rebrand. On pretty much every social media platform, my handle is the same. So it's Steve, Steve, Bussa, B as in boy, Ussa, then GS. That'll be for Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, the whole 9 yards. So check it out. I post business articles all the time. My tweets are borderline hilarious, and I've been crushing everybody on Instagram.
Well, not yet. You're getting more traction because you're new, I think. I don't think you can keep up the pace.
Well,
we'll see.
We'll see. Challenge accepted. Oh, yeah, did you have you talked to them about our challenge? Our social media challenge.
What is? No, I haven't.
First to 5,000 followers.
Something happens.
Oh, you don't even remember?
No.
This is why you don't drink, ladies and gentlemen.
I love Jack Daniels.
Landon and I have an ongoing bet right now since the revamp that whoever's the first person to get 5,000 followers on any platform, the loser has to change their main picture to them holding a sign talking about how great the other person is.
Oh, wow. I forgot about that. Yeah, that's right. That's what it was.
So when I demolish Landon on any given platform, he will have an entire Wyco Street, you know what it is, sign posted up with a do-rag on. It's going to be great.
Yeah, right. I did on the last podcast. I did rip on Bill, which I think you would have appreciated. I offered people.
Are we allowed to talk like that here?
Nah. Well, he had these terrible quinoa chips or whatever that he had.
Right.
So I tried them. They were just god awful. And we went on a whole tangent about it. And I said, if you reach out to us and send hate mail to Bill about the chips, I'd give you $1.
Any takers?
Not yet, but the podcast, we just published it a day ago. So I hope I end up, if I have to spend $10, and I'll say I would give $1 to the charity of your choice.
Right.
So it's long hate message to Bill about the chips, and then also St. Jude, please send them $1, in the thing.
So check this out.
There will be a limit that I'll make up later.
So check this out. Here are my thoughts on Bill, and that's why punch-ins are so important.
That was a good edit. That was good. That was good. That was solid. All right. Well, let's wrap up here. All right, Steve. Thanks for your time, man. As always, I certainly appreciate it. And thanks for listening to us. Thanks for hanging out, everybody.
Yeah,
Take
absolutely,
care.
man. See you next
Later.
time.